My name is Elena Ward, and I'm 29 years old. I didn't realize my relationship was already ending when I finally agreed to let my boyfriend meet my parents. There was no argument leading up to it, no tension I could point to and say, that's when things cracked. If anything, things felt stable, comfortable, predictable in the way long-term relationships often are when you assume you're moving in the same direction. Mark and I had been together for almost 2 years. He was 27, worked in marketing, sharp dresser, big talker when it came to ambition. I'm a software developer, quiet confidence. I like structure, budgets, plans. We lived separately but spent most weekends together. Split bills, took turns planning dates. Nothing flashy, nothing dramatic. Normal, except for one thing. He kept asking about my parents. At first it was casual. When do I finally get to meet them? Then it became pointed. 2 years is a long time, Elena. He wasn't wrong, but I kept delaying, not because I was ashamed of my parents. I adore them. But because I knew the meeting wouldn't go the way he imagined. My parents are in their early 60s, retired early. They live in the same 3-bedroom ranch house they bought in the 80s. 1-bathroom sink, faded floral couch, plates that have survived multiple decades and probably a few political administrations. My mom clips coupons like it's a competitive sport. My dad still wears the same flannel shirts he's owned since I was in middle school. To the outside world, they look like they're barely scraping by. They're not. They're worth millions. They just don't care. I didn't even know we were wealthy growing up. Public schools, used cars, hand-me-down furniture. I found out in college when my dad casually mentioned their retirement portfolio during a financial aid conversation. We'll be fine either way, he'd said, like he was talking about grocery money. They raised me the same way. Save more than you spend. Fix things instead of replacing them. Don't confuse comfort with worth. So when Mark kept pushing, I finally said yes. Early October, Sunday afternoon, clear sky, crisp air. I drove him out to their place. The discomfort started the moment we pulled into the driveway. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Inside, my mom served homemade iced tea in mismatched glasses. Mark glanced at them, then at me. My dad proudly showed him the vegetable garden, explaining how much money they saved growing their own produce. Dinner was quiet. Too quiet. When my mom stepped out of the room, Mark leaned toward me and whispered, "Your bathroom only has one sink?" "Yes." "And this couch, how old is it?" "I don't know. Older than me. It's comfortable." He nodded, but I could feel the judgment settling in his chest. On the drive back, he didn't say a word. Halfway home, he asked me to pull into a coffee shop parking lot. "I need to be honest with you," he said. And just like that, my stomach dropped. "I can't do this," he continued. "Your parents are sweet, but I can't marry into poverty." I laughed. I actually laughed. Short, disbelieving. "They're not poor," I said. "They just live simply." He shook his head. "I grew up differently. I need a certain lifestyle. I want my kids provided for." "You think my parents aren't provided for?" I saw what I saw. Then he stepped out of the car, ordered a ride, and left. Just like that. 2 years. Ended over a couch and some flannel shirts. I drove home in silence, numb, insulted, oddly clear. That night, I blocked his number. I thought that would be the end. I was wrong. I didn't cry the night Mark walked out of that parking lot. That surprised me. I expected the usual breakup aftermath. The shaking hands, the sobbing into a pillow, the irrational urge to reread old messages and look for signs I'd missed. Instead, I felt something colder, heavier, like a judgment had been passed not just on me, but on my entire life. I went home, kicked off my shoes, and sat on the edge of my bed for a long time, still wearing my jacket. I can't marry into poverty. The words replayed with uncomfortable clarity. Not "we want different things," not "I'm not ready," not even "I don't love you anymore." It was a diagnosis, a verdict. As if my parents' couch and my dad's flannel shirts were evidence exhibits in a case he'd already decided. I blocked his number that night. Instagram, WhatsApp up, everything. Not out of spite, out of self-respect. The next few days passed in a strange quiet. I went to work, wrote code, answered emails, ate meals without much appetite. My coworkers probably thought I was just tired. In a way, I was. Emotionally jet-lagged from realizing I'd been standing on unstable ground without knowing it. The anger came later. Not explosive anger. The slow, burning kind that settles in your chest when you start replaying conversations with new context. Every time Mark had rolled his eyes when I suggested cooking at home instead of trying another hot new place. Every time he'd joked about my old lady habits when I talked about saving instead of upgrading my car. The way he'd laughed once and said, "You'd be rich if you loosened up a little." I thought those were quirks. They were warnings. He hadn't just rejected my parents' lifestyle, he'd rejected mine. And worse, he'd framed it as concern, as responsibility, as if calling my family poor was somehow noble, forward-thinking, practical. 3 days after the breakup, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I stared at the screen, already knowing. "Hey, it's me. I know you blocked me. I just need to talk, please." I didn't respond. Blocked it. 2 hours later, another number. "I'm so sorry. I panicked. I said things I didn't mean." Blocked. Then an email hit my personal inbox. 2 years means something, Elena. I was wrong about your parents. Your mom even talked to mine. That made me freeze. My mom? I called her immediately. "Oh, sweetheart," she said gently. "Yes, his mother called me. She sounded so upset. I thought she just wanted clarity." "What did you tell her?" I asked, already bracing myself. "That we raised you to be independent. That you'd be just fine in life. Why?" I closed my eyes. My mother had no idea what she'd just confirmed, because after that call, the messages changed. They weren't apologies anymore. They were negotiations. "I know about your inheritance. Money doesn't change how I feel." I never cared about money. I just freaked out. The audacity landed almost impressively. He hadn't cared about money until he thought there wasn't any. I didn't reply. I didn't owe him clarity. What he wanted wasn't closure. It was control. Over the narrative. Over me. Over the mistake he'd made by misjudging my worth. I didn't scream. I didn't lash out. I didn't defend my parents. I did something far more final. I stayed silent. And that silence? That's when he started to panic. The call came on a Tuesday morning. I was halfway through debugging a piece of code at work, coffee gone cold beside my keyboard, when my father's name lit up my phone. I knew before I answered. My uncle, my dad's older brother, had been sick for a long time, the kind of illness that doesn't surprise you when it ends, but still manages to knock the breath out of you when it does. "He passed early this morning," my dad said. His voice was steady, practiced, peacefully. I closed my laptop and walked outside, letting the cool air hit my face. I'd always liked my uncle. Quiet, dry humor, mechanical engineer for 40 years, never married, no kids, lived even more modestly than my parents, if that was possible. He'd been the kind of man who fixed his own appliances and considered splurging to be buying name-brand cereal. The funeral was small, simple, exactly how he would have wanted it. What I didn't expect was what came after. A week later, my parents sat me down at their kitchen table, the same one I'd done homework at growing up, the same one Mark had silently judged just weeks earlier. "Your uncle left everything to me," my dad said, "and your mother and I talked. We don't need it." I frowned. "Dad?" "We want you to have it," my mom added gently, "for your future." Half. Half of my uncle's estate. When all the legal details cleared, the number sat quietly in my account like it didn't belong there. Combined with my own savings and investments, I was suddenly looking at just over $4.5 million. I didn't scream, I didn't celebrate, I didn't tell anyone. I went to work the next day. Because money doesn't change who you are, it just reveals what was already there. Apparently, it also has a way of resurfacing people you thought were gone. The local paper ran a small probate notice, legal section, barely noticeable unless you were looking for it. Mark's mother was looking. 3 days later, my phone buzzed again. Different number. "Elena, please, I know I hurt you. I didn't understand your family. I was wrong." Blocked. Then another. "Your mom explained some things. I judged too quickly." Blocked. Then he tried my work email. "I understand why you're angry, but we had something real. Let me fix this." I stared at the screen, strangely detached. He hadn't shown up for grief. He hadn't shown up for reflection. He'd shown up for math. And math told him he'd miscalculated. The irony wasn't lost on me. When you grow up with money, you learn how to spend it. When you grow up without flaunting it, you learn how to see through people who only care once it appears. I didn't respond. That's when he showed up in person. He rang the buzzer for 10 straight minutes. I was in my apartment, standing perfectly still, watching the security app on my phone as the lobby camera filled with Mark's face. Slightly rumpled, jaw tight. That familiar expression he used when he thought persistence counted as sincerity. The building intercom finally cut him off. My neighbor must have complained. I sighed, grabbed my keys, and went downstairs. I didn't do it because I owed him anything. I did it because I wanted it to end, cleanly, unmistakably. He looked up the second I stepped into the lobby. "Thank you for coming down," he said, already emotional. "I've been trying to reach you for days." "I know," I replied calmly. "I've been blocking you." He nodded, like he deserved that. "I was awful," he said quickly. "The worst. I said horrible things about your family, and I regret them every single day." I waited. Silence has a way of making people reveal what they actually came for. I panicked, he continued. I had this image in my head of what my future was supposed to look like, and when it didn't match, I freaked out. I mean it, he said. I want to apologize. To you. To your parents. Your mom sounded so sweet on the phone. My mom's not interested in your apology. His face flickered. Then just to you, he said quickly. Please, can we go somewhere and talk? Fix this? Fix what? Us. I studied him then. Really studied him. The slightly messy hair, the carefully practiced vulnerability, the way his eyes kept darting, checking whether the performance was landing. You dumped me in a parking lot, I said evenly, because you thought my family was poor. I know how that sounds. It sounds exactly like what happened. He swallowed. I've changed, he insisted. I've had time to think. Funny, I said, because that clarity seems to line up perfectly with the timing of my uncle's will. His face betrayed him before his mouth could. Just a fraction of a second. Embarrassment. Calculation. That's not why I'm here. Then why now? I asked. Why not the day after you dumped me? He hesitated. I was already trying to reach you before I knew about the inheritance, he said quickly. I borrowed my friend's phone. Technically possible, I said. Not convincing. I took a step back. Mark, I appreciate the apology, but we're done. His voice sharpened. You're throwing away 2 years over one bad moment. No, I corrected. I'm honoring what you showed me in that moment. He clenched his jaw. People change. Values don't. That's when the tears stopped. Completely. You know what? He snapped. You're not blameless here. You lied to me for 2 years. I almost laughed. I never lied. You let me think you were just normal. You hid it. I lived exactly the life you saw, I said. That wasn't hiding. That was reality. He jabbed a finger toward my chest. Most people don't keep millions a secret. I didn't have millions 3 weeks ago, I replied, and my parents' money was never mine. His voice dropped, bitter now. You're going to regret this. Then I'll live with that, I said calmly. You should go. He stared at me like he'd expected anger, something he could argue with. What he got instead was a boundary. He left. I went upstairs feeling lighter than I had in weeks. I thought that was the end. It wasn't. I underestimated how hard someone will fight when they realize they lost not just a relationship, but leverage. The day after the lobby confrontation, my phone started lighting up again. Not from Mark, from everyone else. Mutual friends. Mostly his circle. People I'd spent holidays with. Brunches, game nights. People who'd smiled at me for 2 years and apparently absorbed his version of events without question. Hey, heard things got messy. He's really torn up, Elena. Don't you think you're being a little harsh? I ignored most of them. To the few who sounded genuinely confused, I sent the same message. I appreciate your concern, but I'm not discussing this. Please respect that. Some did. Others didn't. A woman I barely tolerated even when we were dating, Mark's best friend, called me directly. I'm just going to be honest, she said without greeting. You're being unreasonable. I don't recall asking, I replied. He made one mistake. One, and you're throwing away 2 years like it meant nothing. He dumped me in a parking lot because he thought my parents were poor. She scoffed. Meeting parents is stressful. People say stupid things. Then he should have said he was overwhelmed, I said. Not insulted my family and ended the relationship. There was a pause. Then the real narrative emerged. You also weren't exactly transparent, she said. Keeping your family's money a secret? That's manipulative. I felt something shift. So that's what he was telling people. I didn't keep anything secret, I said calmly. I just don't introduce myself with a balance sheet. Well, he's willing to forgive you for that, she said, like she was offering me a gift. The least you could do is hear him out. Pass. You're making a mistake. He's a catch. So am I replied and hung up. I blocked her number. That night my mom called. She sounded hesitant, confused. His mother reached out again, she said. She asked questions. What kind of questions? About your prospects, my mom said carefully. That was the word she used. I closed my eyes. What did you say? That you were doing very well, and that we were proud of you. Then she asked if we could encourage you to talk to her son, said young people give up too easily these days. My chest tightened. I told her you're an adult, and we support whatever makes you happy, my mom continued. She didn't like that. Of course she didn't. 2 days later, I got called into HR. Friday afternoon, the worst time. The representative looked uncomfortable. We received a concerning call, she said, from someone claiming to be your former domestic partner. My stomach dropped. He expressed concern about your mental state, she continued. Said you'd experienced a recent family death and were making erratic financial decisions. He wanted to know if we had employee assistance resources. I felt my hands go cold. That call was inappropriate, I said carefully. He's been harassing me since the breakup. She nodded. That was our impression as well. We didn't share any information. I just wanted you to be aware in case this escalates. Oh, it was escalating. That evening, I came home to find a large envelope taped to my door. Inside were printed screenshots of old texts, photos from trips, a 3-page handwritten letter about love and memories. The last page was a list, reasons we belong together. Number 6 stopped me cold. We're financially compatible, obviously. I took photos of everything. Then I threw it all away. Because at this point, it wasn't love. It was a campaign, and I had a feeling it wasn't done yet. Sunday morning, 8 a.m. The doorbell rang. I knew it was him before I even checked. I stood on the other side of my apartment door, heart steady, and looked through the peephole. Mark was holding a cardboard box. I didn't answer. I watched as he waited, rang again, knocked, checked his phone, rang again. Finally, he set the box down carefully, like it was an offering, and walked away. Only after he was gone did I open the door. Inside the box was a collection of our relationship's debris. 2 hoodies I'd left at his place, a phone charger, a paperback book I never finished. Then the extras. A framed photo of us from a weekend trip, a custom keychain with our initials, and a receipt. Jewelry store, dated 4 days earlier, $300, engraving included. The message was clear. I spent money on you. You owe me. I took photos of everything for documentation, donated the clothes, threw away the photo, put the keychain in a drawer I rarely opened. By Monday evening, I thought maybe he'd finally gotten the hint. Then I walked into my building lobby. Mark was sitting on the couch, flipping through a magazine like he belonged there. How long have you been here? I asked. He looked up and smiled. A couple hours. I figured you'd get home around 6. You can't be here. It's a lobby, he said lightly. Public space. It's private property for residents and guests. I used to be a guest, he replied. Maybe they remember me. I felt my patience thin. We're not talking, I said. I miss you, he said immediately. I miss us. Sunday mornings. Cooking together. Movies. You ended that, I said, in a parking lot. I panicked, he insisted. Haven't you ever panicked? Not like that. He stood, took a step closer. I'm trying to show you I'm serious, he said. I'm putting in effort. Doesn't that count? It counts as harassment. The word landed hard. His face cracked. Harassment, he repeated. I'm trying to save our relationship. We don't have a relationship, I said calmly. You ended it. I accepted it. It doesn't have to end like this. Yes, it does. Because of money? He snapped. Because I freaked out? No, I said. Because you showed me your values. He scoffed. You think you're better than me? No, I replied. I think I loved you for who you were. And you loved me for what you thought I could provide. His voice rose. That's not true. Then why now? I asked. Why did it take finding out about my inheritance for you to realize you made a mistake? He went red. This is unfair. What's unfair, I said quietly, is judging someone's worth by appearances, then demanding forgiveness when the math changes. He stepped back, shaking. You're cold, he said. Vindictive. Maybe, I replied, but I'm done. I contacted building management that night. By morning, Mark was officially on the no trespass list. I thought that would finally be enough. I was wrong again. The silence didn't come all at once. It arrived in fragments. For a while after the no trespass notice, Mark didn't disappear. He just changed tactics. I started noticing him in places he just happened to be. The coffee shop near my apartment on Saturday mornings. The grocery store 2 blocks away on weekday evenings. Oh my God, he'd say, forcing surprise. Crazy running into you here. It wasn't crazy. It was calculated. I didn't engage, barely acknowledged him. I changed my routine, went to different places, stopped letting coincidence have access to me. Then came social media. A long, vague post about toxic people, knowing your worth, dodging bullets, fire emojis, applause from his friends. I didn't comment, didn't explain, didn't defend myself. Anyone who believed it without asking me a single question wasn't someone I needed. The final attempt came by email. Essay length, carefully structured. Apologies, memories. Self-reflection, mentions of therapy. Then the hook. My therapist thinks we should talk. Closure is important. I almost laughed. No ethical therapist would suggest contacting someone who's explicitly asked for no contact, especially not without their consent. I deleted it. 2 days later, a mutual friend called. She just wants closure, he said. Awkward, but honest. She wants me back, I replied. Closure already happened. He sighed. Some people are saying you're being cruel. Then they don't know me, I said. The last confrontation happened at a birthday party I almost skipped. I decided not to hide. Mark spotted me the moment I walked in. "Can we talk outside?" he asked, already reaching for my arm. "Don't touch me," I said sharply, pulling away. People stared. He tried to spin it. Calm, reasonable, wounded. "She's harassing me," I said clearly, "and I've asked her to stop." The room went quiet. The birthday host stepped in, asked Mark to leave. He did. The next day, I blocked the last remaining number. Since then, nothing. No messages, no sightings, no performances. Just quiet. I invested the inheritance. Didn't touch most of it. Put a portion toward a down payment on a modest house in a good neighborhood. My parents came to see it. My mom cried. My dad walked around nodding, saying, "Good bones, good bones." Work promoted me, unrelated to the drama, just earned. Dating? Not yet. Trust doesn't shatter loudly. It fractures slowly, and you need time to feel where the cracks are before you let someone new step close. I'm not bitter. I'm clearer. Mark wanted a lifestyle. I wanted a partner. He showed me exactly who he was in that parking lot, and everything that followed just confirmed it. No revenge, no spectacle. Just boundaries. Firm ones. And peace.